The weeks that followed Jason's proposal felt like a whirlwind. He had expected the trial of the new resource distribution system to be complicated and full of obstacles, but what he hadn't expected was just how much the alien species of Gundara Station would be willing to cooperate. Every species, from the towering reptilian beings to the small glowing creatures, had put aside their differences, at least temporarily, and worked together to make the new system work. Jason couldn't help but feel proud. When he first arrived, on the station, he had been lost, uncertain, and full of self-doubt. But now, he felt like he was part of something important, something much bigger than himself. He wasn't just a human in an alien world. He was a bridge, connecting species that had long been divided by their own prejudices and misunderstandings. But there were still challenges. The new system wasn't perfect. It had glitches, unexpected delays, and moments where the entire station seemed to hold its breath waiting for something to go wrong. But each time a problem arose, Jason found a way to solve it. He worked alongside Zalara, Alicia, and other alien allies, using their unique knowledge to make the system better. Slowly but surely, it was starting to run smoothly. One evening, after another long day of work, Jason sat in his small quarters, staring at the window that overlooked the massive expanse of space. The stars shimmered in the distance, but his thoughts were focused on the future of humanity on Gundara Station. Had they really done it? Had they really earned a place among the many species of the station? Just as he was about to relax, there was a soft knock on his door. Jason stood up and walked over to answer it. To his surprise, Zalara was standing there, a serious look on her face. "Jason, we need to talk." Her voice was calm but urgent. "I think you should come with me. The council wants to speak with you." Jason's heart skipped a beat. The council? It had been weeks since his last meeting with them, and he hadn't expected to see them again so soon. He quickly grabbed his uniform and followed Zalara down the hall, his thoughts racing. As they entered the council chamber, Jason could feel the weight of the moment. The council members, including the tall alien with dark scales and the others, were gathered around. The table, their faces unreadable. Jason took a deep breath and walked forward, trying to keep his nerves in check. Zalara motioned for him to sit down at the table, and he did so, feeling the eyes of every council member on him. "Jason," the tall alien began, his voice deep and powerful. "We have been watching the progress of the resource distribution system closely, and we must say we are impressed." Jason blinked, unsure if he had heard him correctly. "Impressed?" he repeated. "But I thought there were still a few issues. We're still working out the kinks." The alien nodded. "Yes, there are still some problems, but we believe they are minor and can be fixed. What you've done here is more than just solve a logistical issue. You've proven that humans can contribute to something greater than just their own kind. You've shown us that humanity is capable of bridging gaps that have existed for eons." Jason's heart swelled with pride. He had hoped they would come to see humanity as more than just an outsider, but hearing the council acknowledge it was something else entirely. His efforts had paid off. "We've also seen the way you work with the other species," Zalara added. "You're not just a diplomat or a problem solver. You're something more. Someone who sees the bigger picture. That's something we value here on Gundara Station." Jason wasn't sure what to say. He had been so focused on the task at hand, so determined to prove humanity's worth that he hadn't realized how far he had come. This wasn't just about fixing a system. It was about changing perceptions, about proving that humans were capable of understanding and working with other species on a meaningful level. The council members exchanged looks, their silent communication seeming to pass between them like a current. Finally, the tall alien spoke again. "We have come to a decision," he said, his voice serious but respectful. "We have decided to grant humanity full membership on Gundara Station, not as outsiders, but as equal participants in the future of this station. You will no longer be separated or isolated from the other species. You will work alongside us, sharing in the station's resources, its knowledge, and its future. Jason's breath caught in his throat. He had heard the words, but they didn't fully sink in at first. Full membership? Humanity would no longer be outsiders? They would be equal participants? He looked around the room, meeting the eyes of the council members, each of whom nodded in agreement. There was no mistaking it now. Humanity had earned its place. "But this comes with responsibility," the tall alien added, his voice steady. "You must continue to prove yourselves. We expect you to follow through on the systems you've created, to adapt, and to keep the station united. But as of today, humanity is officially part of Gundara Station." Jason stood up slowly, a sense of awe washing over him. This was the moment he had been working for. This was the moment when all the hard work, the struggles, and the challenges had led to something far greater than he could have imagined. "Thank you," Jason said, his voice filled with gratitude. "I promise we won't let you down. We'll do everything we can to make Gundara Station a place where all species can thrive together." Zalara smiled at him, her expression proud. "You've done more than just prove humanity's worth, Jason. You've shown us that even the smallest spark of trust can light the way towards something much bigger." Jason felt a sense of pride and accomplishment that he had never known before. He had come to Gundara Station as a lost, unsure human, unsure of his place in the galaxy. But now, he was part of something far bigger. Humanity was no longer just Earth's representatives. They were equal members of a thriving, diverse community of species. As Jason left the council chamber, the weight of the decision finally hit him. The journey wasn't over, he knew that. There would be more challenges, more obstacles to overcome. But for the first time since arriving on Gundara Station, he felt certain of one thing: humanity's place in the universe had just begun. And as he looked out the window of his quarters later that night, watching the stars twinkle in the vast expanse of space, Jason couldn't help but smile. Humanity had made its mark. The future was bright. Jason stood at the center of the large council room, feeling both the weight of the task ahead of him and the eyes of everyone in the room. The atmosphere was tense. The representatives from the various alien species on Gundara Station had been watching him closely, their silence deepening the pressure. He had made a bold speech, one that he hoped would make a difference, but now it was time to see if his words could turn into action. The tall alien who had spoken earlier with dark scales and a deep, resonant voice was now pacing in front of the table, his large form casting a long shadow over the room. Jason could see the doubt in the other species' eyes, and he knew that earning their trust would be harder than simply making a speech. They had to believe that humanity was capable of more than just what they saw on the surface. "We have listened to your words, human," the tall alien said, his voice echoing. "But we are not convinced. Trust is built through actions, not words. You want to prove that humans have value. You must show us what you can do." Jason swallowed. Hard. This was the moment. He had been given a chance, but now he had to prove that humanity was worthy of being part of the station. The silence in the room grew heavier as the alien representatives waited for his response. Zalara, who had been standing beside him during the meeting, placed a hand on his shoulder. Her green eyes met his with a steady, reassuring gaze. "You can do this, Jason." He nodded, trying to steady his nerves. This was bigger than him. It was about humanity's future, and if he failed, the consequences would affect everyone back on Earth. "I understand," Jason said, his voice calm despite the storm raging inside. "I'll show you. I'll do whatever it takes to prove humanity's worth." The tall alien's eyes narrowed as he observed Jason. "Very well." He turned to the rest of the council, raising his hand in a gesture that called for attention. "We will give the human a chance, but we will not make it easy." Jason was led to a smaller round table that had been set up in the middle of the room. At the table were several complex devices, tools, maps, and holographic projections of the station's resources. Some of them looked familiar, but others were completely alien to him. The council members seated themselves around the table, their eyes locked on Jason. The challenge was about to begin. Zalara explained the task. The station's resources are divided between various species. However, the supply lines are often inefficient and difficult to manage, especially between species with different needs. Humans, like other species, need resources, but we've had trouble integrating your kind into the system. Your task is to come up with a way to improve resource distribution, making it easier for all species to share. This is about cooperation, about bringing us together. Jason glanced at the devices on the table. He wasn't an expert in logistics or resource management, but he knew enough to understand the challenge. It wasn't just about finding a solution. It was about proving that humans could think outside the box and bring a new perspective to the table. He looked up at the council members, their eyes watching him intently. He felt the pressure, but he also felt something else: determination. He wasn't going to fail. He had to succeed. He stood up and started walking around the table, carefully studying the devices and holograms. As he examined them, he realized that the problem wasn't the lack of resources. It was the distribution system. The various species had different needs, and their systems were designed in ways that weren't compatible with each other. Jason thought about how humans handled resources back on Earth. It wasn't always perfect, but humanity had learned to adapt and cooperate. The key to solving the problem, Jason realized, was communication. Each species had to be heard, and their needs had to be understood before they could all share the resources efficiently. He began, speaking aloud, mostly to himself at first as he brainstormed. We need a system that can adapt to the needs of each species while also being flexible enough to allow for change. We need real-time data on each species' consumption habits, and we need a central point where all species can input their requests and share resources according to priority. The council members were silent as Jason continued to think aloud. He moved to a console on the table, bringing up data projections and system maps. He typed rapidly, trying to make sense of the alien technology and integrating his ideas as best as he could. We could build a system that uses real-time data to manage resources. Each species can input their needs, and the system can allocate resources based on availability and priority. But we need to make sure that the system is transparent so that everyone can see how resources are being distributed. This way, no one species will feel that they are being neglected. Jason paused, looking at the council. He knew that what he was suggesting wasn't just a technical solution. It was a shift in how the station would have to operate. It was a shift toward cooperation, transparency, and trust. But would they accept it? The tall alien spoke first, his voice low and thoughtful. Interesting. You suggest transparency and cooperation between species. It's an idea that hasn't been considered before, but it will take time and effort to implement. Do you think your people are capable of contributing to such a system? Jason took a deep breath. Yes, humans are adaptable, and we can learn. We've had to adjust to a lot of challenges on Earth, and we've always found a way to work together. I believe that if we can make this work on Gandara Station, we can help bring all the species here closer together. The room was silent again, and Jason's heart raced as he waited for the council's verdict. Had he done enough? After what seemed like an eternity, Zalara spoke up. The human has proposed a solution. She turned to the council. It's a risk, but it may be the only way forward. If we're to truly work together, we must give it a try. One by one, the council members nodded. Jason couldn't believe it. They were actually agreeing with him. The tall alien with the deep voice finally spoke again. Very well, he said. We will give your system a trial, but know this, human, this will not be easy. If your people fail us, there will be consequences. We will not tolerate failure. Jason nodded, his heart pounding in his chest. I understand. I'll do everything I can to make sure it works. As the council members stood up and began to leave, Zalara approached Jason. She looked at him with pride. You did it. Her voice was soft, but there was a warmth to it that made Jason feel like he had just passed an important milestone. Jason let out a breath, feeling both relieved and exhilarated. He had done it. He had shown them that humans could be a valuable part of this station, not just by being good at solving problems, but by thinking differently, offering new ideas, and working together. The trial period would be difficult, but Jason was ready. The first step had been taken. Now it was up to him and the humans to prove that they were worthy of a place on Gundara Station. Jason's mind was spinning. He had always been told that getting lost in a strange place would be a disaster. But here on Gundara Station, getting lost had opened doors he hadn't expected. After his accidental entrance into the changing room, the alien girls had been kind, patient, and surprisingly welcoming. They had explained their customs, which were so different from human ones. Jason felt like he was being given the chance to understand a whole new world. But now, things were getting more complicated. It was the next day, and Jason had spent most of it walking through the halls with Zalara, Elysia, and the other alien girls. He was learning more about their culture, their way of life, and even the history of Gundara Station. They were showing him how to adapt to the different species and how they communicated with each other. But even with all that, Jason couldn't shake the feeling that something was still missing. There had to be more to this place, more to these people than what he had seen so far. Later that afternoon, Zalara approached him with a serious look on her face. She was standing at the door of his quarters, waiting for him to step out. Jason, she said, her voice calm but firm. I've been thinking. You've done well in learning about our customs, but there's something else you need to prove. Something that's important, both for you and for the station. Jason was taken aback. Prove? What do you mean? Zalara's green eyes were intense as she met his gaze. You've shown curiosity and respect, but now I want to see something more. You're human, and that means you have a different way of thinking, a different approach to solving problems. I want you to show us what humans are truly capable of. Jason felt a knot form in his stomach. How? He asked, his voice unsure. Zalara smiled slightly, her expression softening. By taking on a challenge, a test of sorts. There are many species on this station, each with its own way of thinking and solving problems. We've been studying you humans for a while, but now we want to see if you can think outside the box. If you can bring something new to the table. Jason's heart raced. A challenge? He had never been good at challenges. He was just a regular guy from Earth, not some super-skilled diplomat or genius scientist. But something in Zalara's eyes told him that this wasn't just about winning. It was about proving that humans had something valuable to offer. What kind of test? He asked, trying to steady his nerves. Zalara didn't answer right away. She stepped back and motioned for him to follow her. Jason did so, feeling a mix of excitement and anxiety. As they walked through the station's grand hallways, Jason couldn't help but notice how different everything felt now. The alien architecture was a blend of sleek and organic, as if it was part of the planet itself. The air was crisp, and the atmosphere hummed with the energy of thousands of beings living, working, and interacting with one another. Zalara led him to a large meeting room. Inside, the room was filled with various alien species, tall, dark-skinned creatures with many eyes, shorter, fur-covered beings with sharp teeth, and even an alien who appeared to be made entirely of glowing light. Each species had its own distinct presence, but they all seemed focused on something important. Jason's heart skipped a beat. What's going on? he asked, his voice low. This is the council meeting. Zalara's voice was quiet but full of authority. The station's future depends on decisions made here. The various species, including humans, have to work together to keep things running smoothly. But there's something we can't agree on. Jason looked around at the different beings in the room. They all looked at him with interest, but none of them smiled. They seemed to be waiting for something, waiting for him. I'm here to test you, Jason, Zalara said, her voice soft but clear. You'll have to solve this problem. It's not an easy task, but I believe you can do it. Jason swallowed. What's the problem? Zalara gestured to the council table. A large holographic map of the station appeared in the air, displaying different sections of Gandhara Station. Various alien species and their territories were marked with different colors. Some were in conflict, while others seemed to be peaceful. But there was one problem. The human section was isolated from the rest of the station, and they had no way of reaching the other species. The problem is this, Zalara explained. There's a blockade. The other species refuse to communicate with humans. They see you as different, and they don't trust you. But we believe it's possible to change their minds. The humans need to be integrated into the station's systems. The question is, how? Jason stared at the holographic map, feeling the weight of the situation. This was no small task. It wasn't just about getting humans to fit in. It was about convincing an entire station of aliens to trust them. It was about diplomacy, negotiation, and trust, things Jason had never had to deal with before. Zalara looked at him, her expression calm. This is your challenge, Jason. You must find a way to break through the blockade, to make the other species see that humans can be trusted. You have to use everything you've learned about them and everything you know about yourself. Jason's mind raced. He had spent hours talking to the alien girls, learning about their cultures and their customs. But this was a different kind of challenge. It wasn't just about understanding. It was about creating understanding. And he was going to have to do it quickly. You're asking a lot of me, Jason said, trying to keep his voice steady. I believe in you, Zalara replied. You're human. You see things in ways we cannot. That's why you're here. Jason took a deep breath. He had no choice. He had to do this. Not just for him, but for all the humans aboard Gandhara Station. He had to prove that humanity wasn't just a new species to be feared. It was a species that could offer something valuable. The council meeting began. Jason stood in front of the various alien representatives, who all turned their attention toward him. They were silent, waiting for him to speak. Jason's heart pounded in his chest. But there was one thing he knew for sure. He had to give it everything he had. I know you don't trust us, Jason began, his voice steady. I understand why. We're new and we're different, but I believe we have a lot to offer. Not just our technology, but our ideas, our creativity, and our ability to think in ways that no one else does. He paused, letting his words sink in. The room was still. Jason glanced at Zalara, who gave him an encouraging nod. If you give us the chance, we can help you solve problems. We can work together as equals. But you have to trust us, just as we're learning to trust you. The silence was heavy. Jason didn't know if his words would make a difference, but he had to try. He looked around the room at the alien representatives, searching for some sign that they were listening, that they were willing to give humans a chance. Finally, after what felt like an eternity, one of the aliens, tall and covered in dark, thick scales, stood up. His voice was deep and resonant, echoing through the room. We will consider your words, human. But understand this. Trust is not given easily. You will have to prove yourselves. Jason nodded. I understand. Zalara looked at Jason, her expression proud. Well done, Jason. You've taken the first step. Jason took a deep breath. This was just the beginning. But he knew one thing for sure. He wasn't going to stop until humans were no longer seen as outsiders on Gundara Station. Jason stood awkwardly in the center of the room, unsure of what to do next. He had never imagined his first day on Gundara Station would involve a surprise visit to an alien girl's changing room. To make matters worse, the room was filled with different alien species, all of whom seemed to be watching him with an air of curiosity. The girl with the golden skin, who had spoken to him earlier, stood nearby, her green eyes calm but intense. She smiled gently, clearly not offended by his mistake, but Jason couldn't help feeling nervous. He had been raised with certain rules about personal space and privacy, and he wasn't sure how to apply them here, in a place that seemed so foreign. "I'm really sorry," Jason repeated, trying to apologize again. "I didn't mean to intrude. I'm new here." The golden-skinned girl gave him a reassuring look. "No need to apologize. You're not the first to make such a mistake. This station is full of different species, and our customs may be hard to understand at first." Jason nodded, his nervousness easing just a little. She didn't seem angry, but he still felt like an outsider. He had been on Gundara Station for less than a day, and already he had managed to offend an entire group of people. Alien people. Just then, one of the other girls, a slender alien with pale blue skin and striking white hair, stepped forward. Her eyes were a bright shade of purple, and she had a calm yet playful expression. "I'm Alicia," she said, her voice sweet and musical. "You're a human, right? I've never met one before, but I've heard that you're different from us." Jason gave a small, awkward laugh. "I guess you could say that. Humans are kind of new around here." Alicia's eyes twinkled with interest. "Different can be good," she said with a teasing smile. "You're lucky you stumbled in here. If you had walked into one of the other rooms, you might not have been treated so kindly." Jason felt his face flush again. He had no idea what she meant by that, but he was grateful that she hadn't thrown him out immediately. He was trying his best to stay calm and learn, but everything around him felt overwhelming. The girl with golden skin stepped forward again. "Alicia is right. If you had walked into another room, there could have been different reactions. But here, we're all quite relaxed. We understand that humans are still learning our ways." She turned her attention to Jason, her voice becoming more serious. "I'm Zalara, by the way, and this is our changing room. We have certain rules, but they might not be what you're used to." Jason took a deep breath. This was his chance to understand their culture better. "What kind of rules?" he asked, genuinely curious. Zalara smiled, though there was a certain softness in her eyes. "In this room, we share space. Unlike humans, we don't view privacy the same way. We're not embarrassed by our bodies, and we don't mind sharing this space. It's a safe place for us, but I imagine this is a bit of a shock for you." Jason nodded slowly. He had read about alien cultures before, but this was something else entirely. He had always been taught that privacy was something sacred, something to be respected. It was difficult to imagine that aliens could think so differently about something so personal. Alicia stepped closer to Jason, a friendly smile on her face. "What we're trying to say," she explained gently, "is that in here you're safe. No one is judging you for being human. It's just different. And it can take time to understand." Jason tried to take it all in. The alien girls didn't seem to have the same concerns that humans did. They weren't embarrassed about their bodies. They didn't seem to mind sharing such intimate spaces. But then again, Jason thought, maybe their view of privacy was just different. "What about you?" Jason asked, looking at Zalara. "How do you feel about all of this?" Zalara gave him a soft laugh, her green eyes sparkling. I've been here a long time. I understand that human customs are different, but in the end, we all share this station, and it's better that we learn from each other." Jason nodded. Again. "I see. I guess I have a lot to learn." "Indeed you do." Zalara's voice was warm but firm. "And that's why we'll help you. But you must promise one thing. You will never judge us for being who we are, just as we will not judge you for being human." Jason felt the weight of her words. It wasn't just about learning new customs. It was about understanding and accepting them without prejudice. For a moment, he felt small, like there was so much he didn't know. But then something shifted inside him. "I want to learn," he thought. "I want to understand. I promise," Jason said. His voice was steady now, more confident. "I won't judge." Zalara gave him an approving nod. "Good." Just as Jason was about to speak again, another alien girl stepped into the room. She was tall, with striking teal skin and flowing red hair. Her eyes were silver, and she had a quiet elegance about her. "What's going on here?" the new girl asked, raising an eyebrow. She glanced at Jason, then at Zalara and Alicia, who were still standing by his side. "Oh, just another lost human," Alicia said with a laugh. "He wandered into our changing room by mistake, but he's not a threat, don't worry." The new girl eyed Jason curiously, but then she smiled warmly. "I see. Well, welcome to Gundara Station. I'm Lyra." She extended a hand toward Jason. "If you want to stay here and learn, I think we can teach you a lot." Jason hesitated for a moment, but then he shook her hand. "Thanks," he said, feeling both relieved and excited. This was turning into an adventure, he thought. He had no idea what would come next, but he was willing to face it head on. "Don't be afraid," Zalara said with a knowing smile. "We'll show you that being human in our world isn't so strange." Jason couldn't help but smile back. It was a small step, but it felt like the beginning of something new, something much bigger than just getting lost in a hallway. Jason was nervous. His first day aboard the Gundara station had not gone according to plan. As a young, newly assigned security officer, he was eager to prove himself. But so far, all he had managed to do was get lost. Gundara Station was huge. It was a bustling hub, floating in the middle of space, with ships coming and going from all corners of the galaxy. It housed hundreds of different alien species, each with its own culture and customs. Humans were still newcomers to this part of space, and Jason knew that the way humans did things often didn't match up with the ways others lived. He had spent the morning getting briefed on security protocols and doing a quick tour of the station. But after lunch, he was sent to the farthest part of the station to check a routine security issue. Now, he was wandering down a quiet hallway, trying to find his way back to the main security office. The hallways were lined with bright, smooth walls that seemed to shimmer under the soft lights with no clear direction in sight. Jason cursed under his breath. This wasn't what he imagined when he signed up for the mission. He had always dreamed of exploring space, but now he couldn't even find his way around a single station. As he turned another corner, he saw a door marked with strange symbols. Unmarked, but it looked official enough. Feeling a bit curious, he decided to check it out, thinking it was perhaps another security room or maintenance area. He pressed his hand against the door, and it slid open with a soft hiss. Inside, the room was dimly lit, with large, comfortable-looking chairs and several tall, organic-looking plants scattered about. The air was thick with the scent of flowers, and the space seemed to hum with a peaceful energy. Jason stood still for a moment, unsure of what to do. The room didn't feel like a maintenance area, and it was certainly too clean for a storage room. "This is strange," Jason thought, squinting at the odd shapes and colors around him. The walls were curved in soft, fluid motions. Nothing like the sterile, metallic corridors he had become used to. There were also strange carvings etched into the walls, ones he couldn't identify. His eyes then landed on something that made his heart race. In the corner of the room, there were several alien girls. They were talking to each other, and they didn't notice him at first. Wait. He blinked. Were those... The girls were completely alien in appearance, each one more beautiful than the next. Their skin colors ranged from soft lavender to light blue, and their eyes shimmered in shades he had never seen before. Their faces were delicate, with features that seemed to glow in the dim light. Jason immediately felt out of place. He quickly backed up, trying to leave without drawing attention to himself, but it was too late. One of the girls turned and locked eyes with him. "Who are you?" Her voice was smooth, like the sound of water flowing gently over rocks. Jason froze. He hadn't expected to be caught, much less greeted by an alien. He stammered, I'm sorry. I made a mistake. I thought this was the way to the maintenance bay." The girl didn't seem upset. Instead, she gave him a calm look, raising an eyebrow. "A mistake?" she said, tilting her head. "But this is no ordinary room. What are you doing here, human?" Jason swallowed hard. Human, she had said it like it was something unique. He was used to being the new guy around the station, but this felt different. Her gaze held curiosity, but there was no judgment, no anger, just interest. I got lost. I'm sorry, really." Jason's words came out in a rushed breath. He was about to apologize again when another voice interrupted. "I'm sorry," came a soft, melodic voice from behind him. Jason turned and saw another alien girl walking toward him. She had soft golden skin and long silver hair that shimmered as she moved. Her eyes were green, and they seemed to sparkle with a light that made him nervous, but also fascinated. "I think you're lost, human," she said gently. Her voice was kind, but there was an authority in her tone that made him feel as if he had no choice but to listen. "This is the private changing room for the alien girls on this floor. You've wandered in by mistake." Jason felt heat rise to his cheeks. "I didn't mean to—" "We know," she said, smiling softly. "But you're here now. I suppose we can't throw you out, can we?" She glanced at the other girls, who all watched him with expressions ranging from curiosity to amusement. One of them even chuckled. Jason cleared his throat. "I'll just go. I won't be any trouble." But before he could turn to leave, the girl with the golden skin stepped closer, her green eyes studying him intently. "Wait, you don't need to leave just yet." Jason paused, confused. Was she serious? The girl smiled again, this time a little more warmly. "You're human, right? You probably don't know much about our customs, do you?" Jason wasn't sure how to answer. He had studied alien cultures before, but he hadn't expected an encounter like this. "We don't mind your mistake," the girl continued. "But there are things you must understand before you leave. Our customs may be different from yours." Jason felt his stomach tighten. He had no idea what she was talking about, but he nodded quickly. "I'll learn. I'll be careful." The girl nodded back, satisfied. "Good. You can stay for a while. But no more wandering into rooms you don't belong in." Jason let out a breath of relief. He had been nervous about what might happen, but she didn't seem upset. It was strange. He felt like he had just stepped into a new world, one he didn't completely understand, but one he was suddenly very eager to learn about.